Namaste. On the sidelines of Pondi Lit Fest 2022, I am really happy to have this informal conversation with famous author, contributing editor of Swarajya. I consider him truly dharmic intellectual warrior, Shri Aravindan Neelakandan, and I am going to, or rather we are going to freely discuss about the present situation in India, all over our civilizational upsurge, and what is happening to this idea of Hindutva and Hindutva movement. So Aravindanji, it's a real pleasure, and both of us have been writing about our civilizational values. On the one hand, we are seeing that there is a growing acceptability and moral power of Bharat that is getting accepted world over. There is a growing consciousness about all over civilizational perspective, Hindutva as a philosophy, as a movement, and at the same time we are seeing there is a reaction coming to this. There are many forces who see this civilization itself as a threat to their very existence. How do you see? You have been analyzing various forces, you have been writing and reacting. So let us chat about this.
So, namaste, and thank you so much for those positive words about me. But let me put it very clearly that I am not a warrior, I am not a dharmic warrior, I am not a warrior. I am just a Hindu fighting for survival, nothing more than that, just a Hindu fighting for survival. Because if a person has grown up in Kanyakumari district where I live in the 1970s and 80s, the person would have known what it means to be, how dangerous it is to be a Hindu in a place where Hindus are not a minority. Hindus are where other religions are considerable minorities. You don't even have to be reduced to a minority. Okay. So the point is, we understood suddenly that we are living in a very dangerous situation. Okay. For example, in the night, when there is some church bells ringing, there would be attacks, organized attacks on Hindu families. So we would be switching off all the lights and we would keep our back doors open so that we could run away at any time in the night when there is an attack.
And this was in the 70s?
In 1982, when there was a riot in Mandikadu and all that. But there was a build-up process to this. Okay. For example, there may be a village where Hindus would be, say, small villages where Hindus would be, say, 50% and Christians would be 50%. They would convert some 5 or 10 Hindus additionally into Christianity, then tell all the other minority Hindus to leave that village. So villages would be wiped off of ethnic cleansed of Hindus. It won't even be known outside. So we grew up in that, so we understood what it means to be a Hindu outnumbered, not even outnumbered, reduced in strength, that's enough. Then you will have to live a life of dimitude, whether it is any of the monopolistic religions, whether it is not just one particular religion, any of the monopolistic religions, when they gather strength, you have to live a life of dimitude. That we understood in Kanyakumari district. So now looking back, I see how many people have worked day and night to salvage this problem and create the pride in being Hindu, which is not a pride of affluence or luxury. It was the pride for survival. Only if you are a pride Hindu, only if you are a proud Hindu, you can actually survive. Otherwise, you will be wiped out as a Hindu. So this was the situation. Now, in this situation, to survive, you have to be an aggressive Hindu, as Sister Nivedita said. Okay. So that aggressive Hindu does not mean that a Hindu who goes and hit out at others. That is not the point. The point is, a Hindu being a Hindu itself is an aggressive Hindu in the sense he tells, don't come and play with me. I have a strong philosophy, I have a strong darshana, I have a great civilization, and if you have gone out of this civilization, you have actually betrayed your nation, you have betrayed your ancestors, so you are a deficient person, you don't come and tell that I am deficient. That is the aggressive Hindu I am talking about. So to create that awareness, what I understood later was that what has happened in Kanyakumari district is going to happen in each and every district in Tamil Nadu. And then it is going to happen if they can win Tamil Nadu, which has been the land of Vedas and Dharma, then they can replicate that in Karnataka, they can replicate that in each and every state. For example, take your own state, Maharashtra, they have something called Sambhaji Brigade.
Right.
That Sambhaji Brigade tells that we are not Hindus, we belong to the Siva religionists. And then they go and attack the Bhandarkar Institute, they create this divisive Maratha, non-Maratha, Brahmin, non-Brahmin narrative. Go and look behind, you will find that there would be a missionary hand, there would be an NGO hand. That NGO would be related somehow to the church, it would be related somehow to the global Breaking India forces. So what they had done at in Tamil Nadu, they are replicating it. If you go to Andhra Pradesh, you have the Kanchailaya. If you go to Karnataka, interestingly, suddenly Lingayas start telling that we are not Hindu. A section of Lingayas, not all Lingayas. They start telling we are not Hindus, and our clown prince goes and calls himself a Lingayat. All these are happening in a very systematic manner, and this whole model has been first tested in Tamil Nadu.
No, but my thing is, see, this has been happening for centuries. We have seen multiple levels of attacks, right from physical to cultural, civilizational, intellectual, moral, all levels, and still we survived. Means I see that as a very great achievement, because if you see globally, wherever these monopolistic religions went, almost all indigenous cultures, civilizations, people completely vanished. They are in museums now. But we survived, and now also we see, especially post Rama Janmabhoomi movement, if you see, there is a a systematic and certain kind of rise about our awareness about our dharma, our civilization, our though in one sense, as you said, there is aggressive Hindu and there is genuinely, it's not just reactionary but genuine belief, but that is also unfortunately seen more as a reactionary, right wing, communal in a typical Western framework. How to deal with this, means how to counter this?
The first point is, we are still surviving. We are the, I would say, some people may disagree with that particular term, but I would say we are the last standing pagan civilization.
Absolutely.
Right? Yes. Okay. And so, how this has happened, it didn't happen just because we were passive and our dharma was great. Our dharma is great. For example, the theory of evolution is definitely a science. No doubt about it. It is eternal science. No doubt about it. But tomorrow, suppose a fundamentalist group takes over entire world and tells that nobody should read evolution and starts burning all the books about evolution. The fact that evolution is really a science and really a fundamental law of nature is not going to save the knowledge of evolution.
This paradox of intolerance and tolerance.
Yes, exactly. Now the same thing. Sanatana Dharma is Sanatana Dharma. But if we are not going to protect Sanatana Dharma, we would be wiped out. We have been wiped out from Afghanistan.
Yes.
We have been wiped out from Pakistan, from Bangladesh. And
Absolutely.
In pockets of India, it is still happening. So the point is, you look at the larger Indian landmass, which we call Aganda Bharat. Look at it, which is the shrinking population, which is the expanding population. Hindus are the shrinking population. So, wherever we have survived, there people have made tremendous sacrifices, whether it is Khalsa or whether it is Shivaji Maharaj or whether it is the people who have been working today right now. For example, you take Tamil Nadu. In Tamil Nadu, for the temples to stand, people have done sacrifices. I will give you one example. There is a wonderful tourism and a pilgrimage place in South India called Tenkasi. There if you go, you can go to Kuttalam, you can have a very nice bath in the natural waterfalls. It has great healing powers, and you can come, and there is in Tenkasi, there is a beautiful, magnificent Shiva temple. Tenkasi essentially means southern Kasi. So you go and you can worship there. You will feel very happy, very spiritual and all that. But right before that Tenkasi temple, they were planning to build a particular place of worship in a huge manner. And they wanted a land of a small tea vendor. That land was crucial. That person told, I won't give that land. And he also said that you cannot build a place of worship here right in front of the temple. He started fighting against it. He was a son of a Gandhian freedom fighter. And he also was a Swayam Sevak. And he was fighting against these forces. They were telling, we will give you, at that time, we would give you 15 lakh rupees. We would make sure that your family people get jobs in our establishments. They were telling like that. This person, it's ordinary a tea shop owner, he said no. He was killed for that. His name was Kumara Pandian. Okay, being an organizer, you would have known about him. Then his brothers, they stood against it. In one family, 3 persons became Balidanis, and today if the temple's beauty is not spoiled by another place of worship there, it is because of the Balidan of these people. These people are not, you will never read about them in any of the textbooks, you would never read about them even in the Sthala Puranas that are going to come, but this kind of Balidan is what is actually sustaining. You said that we are still surviving. We are surviving is the fact that we are looking at, but behind this fact of we are surviving still as a nation, countless sacrifices have been done, almost like you are pouring the Ahuti into the Yajna pit. They have been pouring their lives into it. Okay. So, this is actually a fight for survival. If the so-called left-right division is right, the global left should actually support the Hindutva movement, because the Hindutva movement is talking for the real subaltern, the real suppressed voices of the people. But the global left movement is Eurocentric. The global left movement is nothing but a secular mutant form of monopolistic religions. Because the global left movement is nothing but a mutant form of the secular mutant form of these monopolistic religions, they also want to destroy Hinduism. Why they want to destroy Hinduism? Because Hinduism represents theodiversity. They are monopolistic expansionist cults. They are the monocultures of the mind. For the monocultures of the mind, they want to destroy this theodiversity which is represented by Hinduism. Hinduism is essentially a family of religions, and they have porous borders. Whether it is Buddhism or, for example, Dr. Ambedkar, when he was contemplating about conversion, there was another one person who had got converted to Christianity. He came and asked Dr. Ambedkar, at that time British rule was there, he asked Dr. Ambedkar, why don't you get converted to Christianity, then we could get a lot of good things done to our people through the government. Dr. Ambedkar answered, and that's a very beautiful answer. He said that getting converted to Buddhism, which I am contemplating, which I have been contemplating, is like moving from one room to another room inside a house. Whereas if I am getting converted to Christianity or Islam, it is like leaving my house and going into another house. So, this is actually a home in which every religion has been a room in which you can actually live. That is the kind of situation that we have here.
I many times say, there are only 3 isms. One is Islamism, there is communism, and there is Christianism. Because they are bound by certain ideas, certain thought, ultimate objective for each and every living being. And therefore, here we can have multiple paths.
Yes.
Even if there is absolute one single absolute truth. We have multiple paths, and everybody has a right to choose that path. But still Hindutva movement has been branded as rightist, conservative, communal, fascist.
Yeah. I will tell you another one example. I am just giving you, these are data points that the mainstream should have noticed, but it didn't notice it. Okay. So I am giving this. On December 6, 1992, how many Karsevaks were there in Ayodhya? More than 1 lakh. Small town, more than 1 lakh Karsevaks. How many masjids are there in Ayodhya? More than 10. Just near that disputed structure of Sri Ram Janmabhoomi, the doomed structures, near those domes, there were masjids. Did a single masjid was
Faizabad itself has, the district place that Faizabad, now it is Ayodhya, but that itself has a very big mosque
and
structure.
after 1991-1990 massacre of the Karsevaks, these Karsevaks, they only demolished those domes, they didn't touch even a single masjid. Then how you can call them fanatics? They are disciplined people. They had an outrage. They actually corrected a historical crime committed against their civilization, but even in doing so, they controlled their anger, they didn't touch a single masjid. That should have been projected. That should have been projected. Not that they changed the 3 domes into Babri Masjid, which was wrong. It was a Babri structure. It was not a functional masjid, it was a functional temple. The structural domes were destroyed, but they projected as if the fanatical mob of Hindus went and destroyed masjid. They were not fanatical mobs. In fact, they were displaying exemplary secularism by not touching a single masjid. In fact, at some few meters away from Ram Janmabhoomi, there is a Muslim place of worship. The custodian of that place has given an interview to Times of India recently, and he said, even at the height of Ram Janmabhoomi movement, not a single person harmed our place of worship. This is true secularism. And Hindutva is fighting to preserve this secularism, but it is completely shown in the wrong way outside. Vested interests have developed to show Hindutva in this wrong way, because this is because of what I call theo-colonialism. Colonialism, economic colonialism has gone, political colonialism has gone, but a deeper theo-colonialism is here. That is what we have to fight.
What is the option? Because we are having a class of vokes, especially in the younger population, through social media platforms, through various mediums. Intellectually they are not able to understand the kind of spiritual democracy that we have inherited civilizationally, and this is a fight for saving that spiritual democracy, the right to choose my own path, the right to choose my own God, even the right to deny the existence of God and still survive.
Yes.
Somehow, but and this is and that's why I initially called you intellectual warrior. But how to fight this? Because there seems to be complete alliance of these forces, and as you said, because they are seeing a common threat, the last surviving pagan civilization. So what are the ways, what are the options that are available to us as a society?
Here I will tell you one thing very frankly, whatever fight that we are doing right now is actually like giving aspirin to headache. But if your headache is again and again coming, and if it is very severe, you have to take a scan and you have to do a thorough work on that. That thorough work is something like this. See, you have the Puranic story of Prahlada. Prahlada went to a system, a state educational system, which actually supported monopolistic tendencies. I am your father, I have created you, you should worship only me. Whereas Prahlada said that the divine exists everywhere and I have the right to worship it everywhere. So how he got that despite that state education is because he got it in the womb of his mother. In other words, he got it in an organic environment. So we have to create that organic environment irrespective of the state support. If the state support comes, it is well and good. That is why I always tell this changing the syllabus is not going to work. We can change the syllabus today. Tomorrow, if they come, they would change the syllabus. We have to change the entire system that irrespective of who comes, the truth will be taught.
No,
so
anyway, state doing everything is not a Hindu way of doing things.
Yeah, but that is what I mean. So what I am saying is that let us not get into that, because many of the modern internet-based warriors, they often get into this. You have been in 7 years, you haven't changed a single line. So that kind of, you would have seen those kind of thing. I am very happy that they haven't changed actually. Let me be very clear about it. Not because the texts are good, but because we are working on something more fundamental. We have to create an ecosystem in each and every house where the child will be given the truth, so that when the child grows up, he will be able to fundamentally change the system. For example, today we had 3 people who talked in Pondicherry Literist. One was the Dr. Manjul, who archaeologist. Then there was Neeraj. Then there was the paleozoologist. Okay, they all have been able to see what kind of this twisted games the colonial narrative plays, how they were able to do it, not because of the educational system, but because they have something of a greater truth in them. And most probably
the passion, that inherent idea, dharmic idea of searching for truth.
Now this will change the system. Now if these people are going to persist, tomorrow the history texts will imbibe this. All said and done, today why these history texts are like this, it's because of the tremendous amount of work the left has put behind. Absolutely. We have to accept that. There was Trumila Thapar, there was your R.S. Sharma and all those people. Dubious, unethical.
On one theory of Aryan invasion itself, they have invested so much.
So much, they have done that. Now, we are doing the course correction, we are doing the fundamental correction, and for that, actually what we have to do, we have to make sure that every individual imbibes this. Because I always tell this, Hindu Rashtra is not a political goal, it is the existential reality. So you cannot achieve it, you have to realize it. So making each and every Indian realize that he is part and parcel of Hindu Rashtra, this nation is actually Hindu Rashtra. Nobody has to declare
it. Nobody has to declare it, nobody has to create it.
Exactly. It is the Hindu Rashtra.
It's a process of realization.
The people realize that. That is why when Dr. Hedgewar started the Sangh, this is what he envisioned. That is, I remember reading from Chitra Bharati, this beautiful panels. I always remember these panels. It is this. Dr. G goes to Pune. There is a board called Hindu Colony. And Dr. G looks at it and say, why this name is here? This name shouldn't be there. Then perhaps there are Muslim colonies, there are Christian colonies, but there should be no Hindu colony. Because we are the nation. Hindus are the nation here. In our own nation we are having colonies. Perhaps you can have a colony in England. You can have a colony in United States, but not here. So this is something beautiful. So when a person who belongs to monopolistic religion, unfortunately he has somehow moved away from the national life. That I didn't say this, Dr. Ambedkar said that when a scheduled community person becomes a Christian or a Muslim, he gets denationalized. Those were the strong words Dr. Ambedkar used. So when a person becomes denationalized, he could tell like that, I want a ban, I want to do this, I want to do that. But a Hindu, he owns this nation, he is this nation or she is this nation. He has to act with that responsibility. So that is why I always find sometimes there are rhetorical voices coming from the so-called new Hindutvites. But you never find that coming from a Sangh person. The reason is because he has internalized this aspect. I am India. That Swami Ramatita said, I am India. So when I go to Shagastan, basically the Sangastan, one day it becomes Hindustan. That is the vision that Dr. G had. That has already been, that comes inside naturally. The Shaga has created that mechanism. It is intellectually not analyzable, sir. Very frankly, I will tell you how the Shaha works. I have seriously given my thoughts to understand this, and I will tell you one thing: you cannot understand it in reductionist terms. It is something Dr. G somehow touched upon a core civilizational genius of India, used it to revive it.
And interestingly, connecting it with the modern techniques of organization building.
Yes.
See, means for example, uniform,
Yeah.
band,
Uniform.
you know, all these things, even
Yes.
the structure.
Yes.
was,
Outside it looks
because very
it is,
you know, modern
yes.
kind of.
In a way,
the
even
ethos,
here, I would say he has actually applied the Vedic dictum of let good things, noble things come to us from everywhere. Because if he had used, for example, the traditional dresses in Maharashtra, for example, then one day Tamil Nadu people are going to ask, okay, we will wear Panjagacha, because that is the traditional dress here. And somebody will say, we will wear this particular thing, then again the uniformity would have. So he understood that this particular aspect of the West, we can use it. So Vivekananda said that we have to borrow the organizational structure. He bought the organizational structure and coupled it with the genius of India. And that is why I think this model we have to understand from Dr. G, and we have to apply it in our own houses.
but no,
We have to apply it in our.
we are seeing this acceptability at the political level. We are seeing this acceptability in
social
rhetorical social terms also. But the kind of, you are talking about the family institution, for example. I see family institution under tremendous stress. Means it used to be our first school.
That is the actual danger that the Hindutva,
Yes.
this nation is facing. That is why I always emphasize that we should take care of our children. And they have to learn not only about Hindu religions, they have to learn, for example, about Christianity and Islam also we should teach them. Communism also we should teach them. So that the first time he hears about Christianity would not be from a person who is trying to convert him. This I would call that it is like vaccination. You have taught him about Christianity, you have taught him about Islam, then when a person comes to convert him and tries to teach, this would act as a vaccination. It would stop him. So that aspect we have to do. The dharmic vaccination has to be done in the houses itself. If that is done, tomorrow it will be done in the school curriculum also. That is how I see it. And if that has been, that area has been fortified, then India becomes strong, our narratives becomes serious.
You talked about this secularism and true secularism, you know, the Hindu. I also said, you know, it's a spiritual democracy. Another problematic area, and when you were talking about family and the younger generation, this concept of liberalism, you know, that is also creating problem, because now left has almost appropriated the classical liberalism that West has produced. Whether good or bad, negative or positive, I am not getting into it. But one should feel that you can be liberal only when you have a choice to select your own path. If somebody has dictated and you are blindly walking, where is the liberal there? Unfortunately, it is the left or the Western left or the communist who have actually appropriated that liberalism. How do you see dealing with this idea of being liberal and Hindutva framework, if we have to discuss it, present it to the next generation?
Right. For example, in the Hindutva
paradigm
of the framework, there is one thing lacking, and that is advertisement, and that is using the latest fad jargons. We don't do that. And it has a lot of positive things you have pointed out. So these people have a lot of capacity to brand us. They will tell that we are the progressive. By what do they mean by we are progressive? That means you are not progressive. We are the democrat. There is even a joke in Yes Minister once that he says we are going to a particular African country and they are saying, what is the name of that country? Oh, it is a democratic socialist republic. Oh, then it is a dictatorship. So their democratic socialism or their cool words, they actually imply exactly the opposite actually. Okay. So, but it is very cool. when you tell that I am a socialist, you feel very good.
The
When
same,
you wear
the
Che Guevara
same
shirt.
thing is about Kashmiriyat, you know, when
Yeah.
it was Islamized and all the Pandits were thrown away, then only Kashmiriyat was alive.
Yeah, and you have a Che Guevara t-shirt. If you wear a Che Guevara t-shirt, then you are like a, you know, a person born to save the whole humanity, and everybody looks at you with as if you are a, you know, savior. So this is this cool thing they create about. I think that today we have this digital democracy. We have to use it very effectively. I will give you a very simple question. Consider CBCI, which is the Catholic Bishop Council of India, or Jamaat-e-Islami, with which all the known intellectuals, they participate in seminars, they sit with them and dine and wine with them. Now, can a single CBCI person give a statement that the homosexuals also have a right to exist, and if a person of that particular orientation, if he is a good person, then can he go to, can he get salvation? If you ask that question, then you will find that not a single CBCI bishop will be able to answer that.
Absolutely.
But the CBCI projects itself as the custodian of democracy, secularism, progressiveness, everything. The same thing with Jamaat-e-Islami. It is even worse with Jamaat-e-Islami.
And they will also use LGBT movement for to
yes,
tarnish
exactly.
entire Hindutva.
But you see what the Sangh does. In Sangh we say that it is none of our business. A person is like that, unless otherwise there is no abuse, we are fine with it, whatever it is his personal choice. That is the stand we are taking. Who is
No, that
actually progressive?
that has been Hindu thought. We have such deviations earlier also.
Yes.
So it is neither celebration nor criminalization.
Yes.
So
We neither condemn nor condone, and that is how we
this was essentially came after, you know, this entire idea of Victorian morality
yes,
and Victorian
exactly.
laws. So
But the point is this, that they are taking only a fashion statement from there, and then they are looking for somebody to fit into that fashion statement here. You cannot make a Jamaat-e-Islami or CBCI fit into that fashion statement, because if you are fitting CBCI and make a villain out of it, then your livelihood would be a problem. And if you are making Jamaat-e-Islami the villain, your life itself will be in problem. And so what is the easiest target? They pick up Hindutva, because you can rubbish Hindutva, you are not going to be killed. You are not going to be thrown out of any particular university. Unfortunately, this has become a hate narrative. Up to this, it is okay for me. Okay, you tarnish us and you have some more idlis, you eat them. But now this has become a hate narrative, telling that we are against all kind of rights and all this. And sometimes what happens is that some of the fringe elements, they start believing this. And then they essentialize us with these fringe elements. Okay. For example, I will give you a very solid example and a strong example. You take Mahatma Gandhi. If there is a single organization that has actually carried forward the thought of Mahatma Gandhi, it is the Sangh. Because we have worked in the villages, we have worked with the farmers, we have worked with organic farming, we have worked with cow protection.
Gram Swaraj,
yes.
Entire is economy, even his thoughts on conversion,
Yes.
Go Raksha, everything
we have taken forward. And you have Deen Dayal Upadhyaya's integral humanism, which is the evolute of actually Gandhi's and Sri Aurobindo's philosophies together, combined together. You have a person like Dharampal, who is actually a Gandhian historian, who gave him platform. Hindutvites gave him platform. So Hindutva is the only space where Gandhian principles can actually evolve. Yet we are labeled as Gandhi killers. Right? This is the power of narrative. This has to be fought. I will give you another one example, and with that, you remember Bhopal gas tragedy. In Bhopal gas tragedy, along with the Indian government, there was only one organization that worked to protect the victims, RSS. At that time, I was a Swayam Sevak, a teenager in our shagas. They used to tell us about how the Swayamsevaks went and helped and everything. At that time, a lady from Calcutta came to Bhopal. Her only mission was to bail out that Anderson, Warren Anderson. She had to bail out Anderson. That was, I think, Teresa. It was Teresa. She didn't come here to help the victims. She came here to protect Union Carbide chairman and fly him out of India. She successfully did it because Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister. Years later, okay, 25 years later, a book comes written by Dominic Lapper on Bhopal. There, the missionaries of charities were the ones who were coming and working and doing the humanitarian work, and the Indian army was blocking entire Bhopal, not allowing the victims to get out. So Indian army becomes the villain, Indian state becomes the villain, missionaries of charity become the angels of compassion. Then I remembered that in Shaka we have told, this has been told. So I went and asked our Sangh people, any photos of Swayamsevaks helping us there. And they all said, see, we help our brothers, we don't keep photos of we helping our brothers, it is not our this. At last I searched, there was an online photo exhibition by a famous photographer of Bhopal tragedy. He was a Christian actually. There I could find photos of Swayamsevaks going and taking the bodies, cremating the bodies, standing with this there. Okay. So now you see how the narrative gets changed, because Sangh does not believe in publicity, but we have to do documentation. That is one place where we are lacking actually. We don't do documentation.
So before closing, I just want to ponder over, because if we keep discussing this thing, then it's, yes, on the one hand we have to fight. There is no option. We have been doing that. Many people have sacrificed. But otherwise people generally feel very pessimistic about the present situation, and as if in next 10-20 years civilizationally we are going to completely lose out on everything. I see very positive developments, because many people from non-social science background, there seems to be an urge to connect with the roots. Somebody has to channelize it. Politically, socially, we are already seeing the impact. Now we need certain mechanism. We hope, at least I have that hope that, we are in Pondilit phase. There are many such initiatives that are taking place. Some kind of churning is going on. I hope that, positively our next generations would come up, we will give a message, and there will be some kind of reversals even in Europe that I see present situation. That is my hope. How optimistic you are about this?
I consider the present situation like the famous Schrodinger's cat. I really do not know, because see, in 2004 to 2014, those 10 years were worse than 100 Aurangzeb's rules. We fought back, and we are right now here. Today, every municipal election has to be fought like it is a battle of Panipat. That is the situation we are in. The anti-Hindu forces have captured India's grand national party, and they have made it into anti-Hindu party, which is very dangerous situation. Today, see, the point is, if it will not happen, I am 100% sure about it, depending upon a political party's victory, today Dharma's future is there. So we have to make sure that that particular party wins. That is different, but the point is we are in that stage. We are at that stage. So actually, very frankly, I want to feel optimistic. Okay, and for that we have to do a lot of work, we have to do a lot of sacrifice. If this civilization, if this generation does that, we don't have the right to be complacent. We don't have the luxury to be complacent. We have not miles to go before we sleep. We have light years to go before we sleep, before we can even rest. And if we do that, then our children will have this land. Otherwise, they will end up in international refugee camps. So that is how I see this.
Thank you. It's a fascinating discussion, and I know we can keep on talking and talking, and the examples and the issues will come up. But it's real pleasure on the sidelines of Pondilit Fest we could.
Thank you so much.
Discuss.
It was great.